What if there is a certain rhythm and you break it? That's what anti-fragility is about. And in this video I want to talk about how you can become more anti-fragile. I'm gonna talk about what anti-fragility even means, what you have to be looking out for, what Nietzsche said about anti-fragility, and the different environments or the ways to look at the world through an anti-fragile lens. A great metaphor for anti-fragility is wind extinguishes a flame, but it energizes a fire. Certain stressor can break something while something else, the fire, can actually gain strength from the same stress. So what is anti-fragility? Imagine you're trying to send a box of glass to the other side of the world. You're going to ride on it. Be careful, handle with caution because it's fragile. If you shake it, it will break. Now that is what we call fragile. Now the next step is that maybe you have a box of diamond glass, which is apparently very strong, and we could call this robust. So you don't have to be too careful about it. It will need a lot of stress before it breaks. An anti-fragility, you're going to send this box around the world, you're going to ride on it, handle it carelessly, because the more you shake it, the stronger it gets. This sounds like quite a magical material, but there are plenty of examples in the natural world at least of things that are anti-fragile that gain from disorder. So Nassim Taleb, the writer of the book AntiFragile, talks about the distinction between washing machines and cats. And there's one right behind me. The machines, the more you use them, the more you lose them. While everything that's alive basically thrives when you are using them. So use it or lose it, instead of use it and lose it. The mechanical washing machine is harmed when it experiences stress, while the cat, the living thing, is actually harmed when it doesn't experience any stress. The absence of stress or the absence of challenge degrades even the best of the best. One of the first things you can do, according to Nassim Taleb, the writer of the book, is if you want to become more anti-fragile, you have to go to parties. And he doesn't mean you have to go out drinking, but with parties he means find places that are full of serendipity, full of black swans, which means things you cannot know beforehand, things that only after they've happened you can understand why they've happened, but beforehand you never expected that they would have happened. Try taking a different route to your work, try living at a different place like I'm doing for these 2-3 days. It will shake up your internal snow globe. You will have new sensations, new smells, new taste, new everything around you is different. There's different stimuli, and I know that I tend to underestimate what it will do to me because I think that, oh, it's just gonna be like this, I've seen this before, but it's silly to think that you can know the future, which is infinite and unknown, by the past, which is finite and known. It's not going to be the same, it's not linear. That's a very big important concept in the book, is that we tend to think that life is linear. And he gives this example of a turkey that has been very well fed his whole life. He has had the best life on the farm and everything has been like steady going up. He's been growing, and he never expected that just before Christmas he would have been taken out of his environment and ended up on the Christmas dinner plate. So that is what Nassim Taleb calls a black swan event. We never thought black swans existed until we found them, I think, in Australia. Nassim Taleb also wrote about The Birth of Tragedy, the book written by Friedrich Nietzsche that I've mentioned in previous videos. And he says that Nietzsche called Socrates the mystagogue of science, which sounds strange, but what it means is that mystagogues are people who try to initiate other people into a certain religion or a certain spiritual belief. And what he meant by that was that Socrates initiated people into scientific thinking and made people believe that existence or reality is comprehensible just by the logics he was using. But Nietzsche says that Socrates should have asked himself whether he wasn't cutting himself off from parts of reality by thinking that he can grasp reality with only his intellect. And I've mentioned this before. Nietzsche talks about Dionysus and Apollo and how they are both opposing forces of chaos and structure and how they strengthen each other. And it was actually Nietzsche who was the first to talk about being creatively destructive, which means that sometimes stuff just needs to break in order for it to grow. Like if you go through any creative process, you know that first you're going to need some chaos, you need to get an overview of all the possibilities, after which you're going to need some structure and some rationality to select which of these pieces you're going to be using. That's one of the key takeaways, is that you need some uncertainty, some chaos, some disorder to grow. And Nassim Taleb also talks about two different types of environments. The one is ludic, which means playful. He talks about the chessboard where rules are very clear, and he talks about the ecological environment, so the ludic and the ecological. And the ecological is more like real life, where there are not really clear rules. Everything is kind of murky and you just have to kind of figure it out on the way. And that the things that you learn in these ludic environments like university or college, where the rules are clear, not always translate easily to ecological, like real life scenarios. And that's why Nassim Taleb also says that it's really important to just learn by experience, like do it, go into the world, go to parties, as he says, a environment that you cannot control, that you don't know what's going to happen. But when you do this, when you go into these uncontrolled environments full of serendipity and black swans, you want to make sure that you're going to be aware of your threshold for disorder. Because there's also an upper limit to the stress that you can handle. Because another very important natural principle is just to take rest, to go out of these uncertain environments. Because trees take rest, cats take rest, we also need to take rest. And that is when, after you go to the gym, you're tearing up your muscles, you're gonna sleep and you're going to come back a little bit stronger. And that's the idea of anti-fragility, to break it up, take some rest, and then afterwards you're going to be stronger. So if you're constantly going to add more and more stress, you're going to reach this threshold of disorder where it's going to be very difficult to come back stronger. You're going to come back weaker, and that's not what we want, of course. And talking about the use it or lose it principle, make sure to use that subscribe button, because otherwise you're going to lose all of this. And if you are curious about this Apollo and Dionysus contrast, you can click on the video in the corner over here. And I hope that after this video you will put yourself into disorder, seek some uncertainty to grow afterwards. Thanks for watching.